Welcome to today's webinar on how the student movement and you can drive sustainability. So today's going to be focusing on giving you a little bit of an introduction to how NUS works on environmental and ethical issues. I'm Laura Williams. I'm one of NUS's sustainability project officers leading on Green Impact Students' Unions and some of our other outward-facing programs as well. And you'll be also hearing from Kemp, who's the Green Impact Programs Manager throughout today's webinar too. So a couple of things on webinar protocol and making sure that you get the most out of the next hour with us. So when you're signing in, please make sure that you mute yourself using the little icon next to your name in the participants list, so that we're not having interference between different people speaking at different times. We're going to get you involved in the webinar as much as we can by getting you to type questions to chat bar, and then my colleague Joe is going to try and answer any of those questions as we go along. So I hope you enjoy the next hour, so we'll get going. Now's the time to switch on and engage, so please make sure you've turned off all of your other programs on your computer so we've got undivided attention. So what we're going to be looking at today is 4 key themes. So why is NUS working on sustainability, which I'll be bringing to you. Then there'll be an overview of our current projects, which Joe will be leading on. Then we'll get down into the nitty-gritty and think about how you could take action on your campus to try and bring sustainability initiatives in our campus. And then finally, Joe will give you a bit of a summary of some of our future plans on NUS's sustainability work. Okay, the first section. When I think about why NUS is currently leading on lots of work in sustainability, quite useful to draw on this inspirational quote from Nelson Mandela, who said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So as the NUS, we're the representative body for students of all ages, focusing on all sorts of different subjects across the UK. So that puts us in a really powerful position to be able to influence that education. And we know that students are incredibly keen on sustainability, and it's something that's going to have a huge impact on them in the future. So at NUS, we want to try and use that power and influence to be able to make sure that education is creating those changes that students want to see in the world. Really long history of political and social justice campaigning. So here you can see one of the pictures of a demo from the South Africa anti-apartheid demo from 1963. One thing that the student movement was really big on in the UK at the time. So even though NUS had a no politics clause at the time, where we only really focused on campaigning on education issues, the NEC at the time felt that they could oppose the apartheid regime on educational grounds. So there was all sorts of levels of support that we gave to this campaign, where our president was providing support for exiled activists, and we even saw Gordon Brown, who was standing for Edinburgh University rector at the time, standing on a platform of divestment from South Africa. Such a big issue, we got really involved in the kind of campaigns and communication side of this campaign. Here's one example from the movement of one of the posters that we sent out and trying to encourage Barclays Bank to divest from South Africa. And this poster was seen as a bit of a straw that broke the camel's back and was really important in ending up with Barclays divesting from South Africa. It can be said with our experiences in working with the Chile Solidarity campaign. It was something that one of our NEC members was really keen on at the time, and so he actually went over to Chile after President Hollande was assassinated, and was going and record testimonies from people who'd witnessed what was going on over there, and then came back and did an extensive speaker tour on it. So the student movement has been really important in changing the kind of political landscape on social justice issues. Today, of course, sustainability and climate change is one of the biggest threats. If you look at this recent IPCC reports on this. We know that climate change is happening, we know that sea levels are rising, and we know that the Earth's temperature is increasing as well. And it's something that is agreed on by the majority of scientists. So as the student movement, we want to take a stance on this and make sure that we're serving our members in the best way possible. So there's a little bit of an introduction for you to see whether you're all switched on and listen to us. We've put in this a couple of different questions that we'll be kind of putting throughout the presentation for you to answer and have a think about. So here's the first one. And what I want you to do is wake up with an answer. There is on the left-hand side of your... So I'm going to mute whoever that is. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Back in. Like it's a cool guy. Back in.
Someone doesn't have their microphone muted. I can't see who you are. If you could mute your microphone for us, that would be fantastic. Okay, so on the left-hand side of your screen at the moment, you should see a little pen icon. On that, the second option down is a little arrow pointer. So what you need to do is click on that, and when you've decided what your answer to each of the questions is, you can use that arrow to signify which of the answers you think is the correct one. So first question, here are a load of Wellington boots delivered to their doorstep by environmental campaigners earlier this year. Was it Theresa May, Clegg, or Owen Paterson? I know to do an example of how to do this, that would be great. So if you start clicking on the arrow function, okay, so someone saying Theresa May. Anyone guess? Theresa May, couple going for Nick Clegg and Paterson. Anyone put forward there? Okay. So to this question, actually, Owen Paterson. So he was the Environmental Secretary until fairly recently and has been taken over by Liz Truss. It was an action that was put forward by Friends of the Earth. He wanted to highlight just how ineffectual Owen Paterson had been in pushing forward sustainability issues during his time in office. And so decided to do some really creative campaigning in highlighting that issue and got really good media attention from it. So, as well as having a strong history in social justice campaigning and sustainability being an important issue, NUS has looked to our membership to check that this is something that they really want us to be working on. Over the last 3 years, we've been tracking research on student attitudes towards climate change, and the last round of research found that 77% of students are concerned about the effects of climate change. This is something that is growing. Over 60% think that we're feeling the effects of climate change. So when you think about the kind of weird weather phenomena that we're seeing, it's something that students are noticing and becoming more anxious about. And 2/3 would be more likely to vote for a government which took action on climate change. So in the year of the general election, it's huge news and hopefully something that NUS will be pushing forward through our campaigning over the next few weeks, and we hope you'll support us in doing that as well. That students are really, really keen for their universities to take a lead on sustainable development. So first question is asking whether they want their universities to incorporate and promote sustainable development. Second question, looking at how much that's integrated into the curriculum. And then the third one, asking students whether they want to learn about sustainable development. And on all of these things, you can see that the majority of students have consistently, over the last 4 years, stated they want these things to happen. So we have a really strong mandate from the student movement to keep leading on sustainability work. Just to summarise all of that for you, I'm just going to show you a quick video which gives you a little bit of an introduction to why NUS is working on sustainability.
We're going to make the world a greener place. Institution, halls of residence, and the curriculum. Students are adopting positive behaviours which last for a lifetime and are becoming inspired to do more for sustainability. All over the country, students are greening their unions, working on energy reduction campaigns, greening the supply chain, promoting cleaner transport, and much more. The students' unions turn into hubs of sustainability at the heart of their wider communities. We support student volunteers to deliver innovative greening schemes in schools, prisons and hospitals. Projects strengthen student unions and add value to their local communities. This equips our students with the skills they need to thrive in an emerging low-carbon economy, with over 1 million graduates a year becoming agents for positive change across all aspects of society. Those behaviours picked up in this moment of change go on to shape their entire lifestyle, with habits they've adopted during their time in education embedded for a lifetime. And we do all of this because our students want it. 3 out of 5 students want to learn more about sustainability. 4 out of 5 want their institution to incorporate it and actively promote it. At the UK, sustainability radiates from institutions into their communities and across the lifetimes of emerging graduates. Through the power of students' unions, we can make huge strides towards a more environmentally friendly future. Powered and supported by NUS, students are at the heart of a greener economy, a community, a green future, and a greener world.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So there you go. There's a bit of an introduction to sustainability and NUS's work on this. That may be theory, and hopefully that's some of the experience that you guys and your students' unions have seen and are working with us on some of those projects. But if not, that's something we're going to try and address during this webinar. So I'm going to hand over to Kemp, who is going to take you through the next section.
Thanks for coming along. So yeah, that kind of really nicely frames what I'm just going to explain. Some of you, this may not be new, but hopefully it kind of brings you up to speed with the kind of range of different projects and programs that we run. And so obviously in the questions at the end, if there's anything you want to ask us about how you take part in those, then that'd be great. As I said, just an overview of our current project. So we've been working on a sort of 3 to 5 year strategy in the last 3 to 5 years, and our sort of intention therefore is to go back to our roots and really make sure that we're still greening our suppliers. The E&E department really grew up from our positive work with suppliers to try and make their supply chains better and their staff wages and conditions better. So that's one aspect, and to really help students' unions to green their institutions and communities. So the 5 pillars that feed into that. The first is installing green behaviours, and most of the projects that I'm going to go on to show you about really focus in on that. It's become a real strength of NUS, and we're now sort of really well known across the whole sector of universities and colleges and the wider community now for really being involved in behaviour change projects. Community bridges. This is a real strong aspect as well of our programmes. Everything we do, we're constantly trying to support student unions to make the connections outside of their campus walls and link them up better with their wider community to give better opportunities to students, staff, and obviously for the communities to kind of really appreciate the strength of the students' unions and what they can do to support them. Increasing employability and widening participation, key words of the moment, and obviously from your positions I expect you're all really aware of how important employability is for students, and also the importance of us making sure that our participation is as wide-reaching as possible. So that's involved in every aspect that we do. Making students' unions stronger by just delivering projects and providing support. We're able to do that. And there are other ways within some of our programs that we can also provide a little bit of financial support to students' unions as well to enable them to flourish in sustainability, and hopefully that having a wider impact on their financial sustainability as well. And being the greener supply chain, and really making sure that everything that we do within the purchasing consortium tries to at least address and question and comply with our stringent ethical and environmental considerations. So hopefully most of that will come out through the next couple of slides. And we run programs in different ways. At the moment, kind of got two really great programs for engaging through fun and collaboration. The Student Switch Off works at between 50 and 60 university campuses and some schools now as well. We're piloting there. And it's just a really simple energy-saving competition, all based on social media and the power of students wanting to do what other students do. And it's really just addressing the simple issue of rising energy costs within halls of residence, where students don't necessarily feel the need to switch stuff off if they're paying an all-inclusive fee. So we run a campaign throughout the year with through the Students' Union and the University and Accreditation Services to engage students to make brilliant photos like the one you can see there, to encourage their peers to switch off. And we've been seeing sort of about 6% reductions in energy each year at each organisation that we run that in as an average, which is great. E&E is a relatively new project. It's been running for the last 3 years now, and again, it's a really great opportunity for collaboration. So we've worked with about 20 students' unions and universities each year. They set up their own allotments. It can be tiny or it can be really quite extensive. With key aspects being that they a team of students and staff together to run that. That it should be producing food that ideally they can then use on campus or for social good, and that they involve their community in that. So a lot of them are working with local schools, with nurseries, with offenders to make that space accessible. Action and seeing instant results are also really key to our behaviour change work. Blackout, we've been running for the last 2 years, but it was piloted by Southampton University and Students' Union in 2012. Again, a really simple concept. There's no rocket science here, but it's about getting students to volunteer on one Friday night in the year to go around and switch as much off as possible. Blackout, when they started this, did all of their buildings, which was pretty epic. They had about 300 students and 100 staff turn up on the night to switch everything off. And we've now got 12 institutions and unions working together this year to run Blackout on their own campuses. I piloted it last year across 6 institutions in Wales. So a really great opportunity for students to really see how instant their impacts can be and how much they can save over just one weekend of switching everything off that doesn't need to be on, which is brilliant. Snap It Off is something really simple that any of you can take part in and really easy for you to promote. And it's basically just a website where we ask students, staff, members of the public to take photos of energy that is being wasted that they can't do anything about. So the examples here are of lights, ceiling lights, but also lights outside when they don't need to be on. But there's no light switch for the students to be able to switch them off. So students post the pictures to our website. We contact the person responsible for doing that, get changed or tackle it, and then we can obviously post back and say what impact. We've had great immediate response for students to see how just by taking a really simple, low profile action, they can really make a difference. Within and across institutions and communities, I expect most of you are familiar with the Students' Green Fund. It was a fund that we got given summers ago now, to give to students' unions to run their own sustainability projects. It's been really successful. Unfortunately, we haven't had a repeat of the funding for us to deliver further projects, but there's definitely elements of the projects that have been happening across the 25 students' unions that we're going to now be able to take on internally and provide toolkits and resources for other unions to copy those. So a brilliant example of where we've been able to give students' unions the support to strengthen their own ability to deliver sustainability. And finally, Green Impact as well is one of our longest running programmes, and it's a simple accreditation scheme for students' unions, for universities and colleges, and also for community organisations to complete as many actions as possible over the course of an academic year and receive reward for taking those positive actions. And the programmes we've talked through, it's all about prioritising the positivity, the ability of students and staff to make a change rather than chastising what we can't fix or the challenges are. And Green Impact's a really great way that we can show that and demonstrate the impact. And last academic year we had about 40,000 different actions being taken across the UK, which is really great, and students' unions are leading the way with 115 students' unions taking part. So, yeah, another good news story. Beyond that, something that's slightly more nebulous at the minute, but we're starting to hone in on, is really looking at sustainability skills and the curriculum. And some of the slides that Laura showed were around what students wanted, and that they wanted sustainability to be part of their university career, part of their education, something they wanted to learn more about. And one of the ways that we can do that is to try and help colleges, institutions, lecturers, unions, to really think about the ways that they can input some of the real essentials of sustainability into the learning of students. And that's not just saying that we should be making sure that every geography student knows about climate change, or that maths students should do a project on calculating climate change. It's about ideas than that. And some of the examples are shown here that we need people to be a responsible citizen locally and globally in order to be able to work in a sustainable society. That we want students to be able to adapt to new situations, that if the challenges of climate change pick up pace, we know that students in the workplace are going to be able to really think around that and move quickly to overcome it and think of really positive, socially impactful solutions. One of the things that we're trying to do, and I'm sure from your positions you're aware is sometimes a bit of a struggle, is really raising it up on the agenda, making it an issue, and making it a student-led issue, not just one that is bandied around in the newspapers as a doom and gloom problem, but really finding positive ways that we can influence to make a change. So the text here shows that a quarter of young people are actually unoptimistic about their job prospects. We've recognised over the last couple of years that one of the things that we can really do is try and build the opportunities for students and apprentices within the workplace, that they can really value how having sustainability skills can push them up the job ladder. The New Deal is really pushing green apprenticeships, which we're obviously trying to support as well. We chose Green Jobs Alliance, which is also in partnership with the UCU, and that's our way to really have a strong voice to try and make ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, an action issue. That's where we're at the moment. Each year, the EAUC, who are the Environmental Association for Universities and Colleges, run a really prestigious awards event called the Green Gown Awards. Traditionally, it's just universities doing big technological changes or some curriculum changes that really appear on the awards list. However, this year we had quite a few students' unions as a result of the Students' Green Fund being put through to the final stages. So just a little quiz question, so if you get your arrows ready, we wanted to find out from you how many you think were put forward to the final stage of this year's Green Gown Awards. Great goals, and good to see you're all still listening. That's good. so 8, and I have the winner's brochure in front of me, but one of them that was put through was Worcester, and they were running a bike scheme, and we've seen quite a lot of bike schemes over the years wanting to take up, but not quite working, and they just had a really nice example through the Student Screen Fund of just funding a small number of bikes that were redone in the community and up to standard. They really battled through the different ways that people could hire bikes, but they've managed to find a space on campus, and there's now a real opportunity for them to grow that out within the city. And I just remember that being a particularly sort of standout award, and they actually won that. So, real example of where students' unions are leading the way now in the sector for sustainability. Pass back over to Laura to look at the next section.
Great, cheers for that, Jo. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of inspiration for the sorts of things that you could potentially work with us on your campuses on the sustainability front. So what we're going to go into now is a bit more of an interactive section where we'll be thinking about the kind of things that you could do, drawing on some of the examples that we've given you already, to forward sustainability initiatives on your campus. When you're thinking about, what we're going to do in the Students' Union this year, what would really get people thinking about sustainability and whether it's even relevant, I guess. I always think the best place to start is to think about those students and what are going to be the things that will make them tick. So we've got a blank page in front of us now, and that's so that you can write down 3 words that best describe your students, and then use that as the basis for thinking about what kind of actions you could do on your campus. So where there's the arrow function that you've all been using beautifully, there's 2 E's, and that's kind of, if you click on that, then you can write down a couple of words on the white screen that describe your students. I'll just give you a few seconds to do that. 3 things that spring to mind when you think about your students. Well, yeah, absolutely. Really diverse membership within all students' unions. And it can be a challenge to engage people from across the spectrum in Students' Union campaign programs. New things, so quite open-minded, that's really good. That's going to help us with engaging them on sustainability. Financially conscious, yes, absolutely. Students are cash strapped and maybe having to balance a number of different issues all at one time, so in between a job and their studies as well. Any mind? Okay, I'll just give a couple more seconds. Did this as a team, we kind of came up with a couple of things that we think about in terms of different sorts of students that engage with our programs or are within the student body. So firstly, you've got your student who's maybe interested in getting some experience. They're maybe job focused and interested in their career progression after their time at university. So that could fit into sustainability programs, and it's certainly something that with programs we're quite conscious about in giving people CV statements for the good work that they've done and making sure that they're building skills that they talk about in an interview or would be relevant to their future career. Maybe a campaigner, so really interested in the political aspect of sustainability. So with the general election coming up, thinking about how they could engage with sustainability on that front, or maybe getting involved in some of the negotiations around Paris, which is going to be the big environmental summit, talking about what is going to be the global attitude towards sustainability and climate change over the coming years, looking for a legally binding agreement. Into the social aspects, a bit of a party animal, and ways that sustainability could maybe engage with those students. Are there kind of incentives that you could integrate into your sustainability programs that would engage them? Or maybe it's that you take the green agenda to those kind of more social events and engage people that way. Then we've got we've got a picture from our old student switch off campaigning. So the green Greens who were dressing up in lycra and going into campuses and really trying to engage people on the sort of more fun and volunteering element of sustainability. So not making it something that's really serious. So that's the kind of thing your students would be engaged with. It would be quite academic as well. So the reach angle of our sustainability work might be the one that particularly engages them. Or maybe it's through the curriculum side of things. So thinking about how they could study into sustainability issues and how could the students' union support them in doing that. And finally, sports teams as well. We know that a lot of students engage with unions through the sports world, and there's plenty of ways in which that kind of competitive drive can integrate it into sustainability initiatives. So those kinds of students are included as well. A really, really mixed bunch. And the more you can kind of get to know what your students are like, the better you're going to be able to focus in on the elements of active sustainability programs and particularly new sustainability programs as well that would really get them excited and make it into something that they really want to engage with. So I've given you a couple of ideas of the kinds of things that we think about when we think about students and the different angles we could use to engage them. What kind of sustainability message do you think would engage your students on your campus? Here you could write down some examples using the notes function, saying maybe things that you're already doing that have been successful, and what messages you say to get people involved. Or it could be something new that's just come to you from the last few minutes of talking through the different motivators of students. So I'll give you a blank page again, and we'll see what you come up with. Be paying their bills then, making sure that they know about saving energy earlier can be a really useful skill. So kind of viewing it that way can be a great motivator. Anything involving our sports teams will be a great way forward. So quite a strong sports team network somewhere. It's something that we're actually looking into at the moment. A couple of our Student Green Fund projects particularly are interested in this angle. So maybe that's something that we could work with you on, whoever wrote that particular point, something which directly impacts on them. So maybe a direct impact could be something like helping them to grow their own fruit and veg. If we're thinking of students as being cash strapped, if they're able to get involved in a local growing initiative through an allotment, so like the Student Eats project that we run, maybe that could be particularly helpful for those students so they can see direct impact of their work. Being a great way of getting students in societies and clubs involved. So it was at Keele University Students' Union last year where they created a new kind of award for, they called it Stripes, for any student group in society who were starting to work on sustainability. So they gave them particular actions to do and kind of gave them awards based on that. So yeah, that could be a good way to guys. There's two that are overlapped. Sustainability so a union that I think kind of opportunities for students to get skills around sustainability could be great. Student switch off and blackout campaigns look very interactive. Yeah, we found really good for that initial engagement with students who are quite new to sustainability. And then saying they like the research interns idea. Okay, great. So it looks like we've kind of given you a load of different ideas of the sorts of things that you could do. We'd be really keen to work with any of you on developing that either through our Green Impact Students' Unions programme, the Students' Unions competition, or any other work. So please keep us posted with things that you're developing, and would like to see more from us as well. On the kinds of things that other students' unions have done that we've been really impressed with over the past few years. And so the first one, the Hey Punk Sort Out Your Junk campaign poster, was Bangor Students' Union. And they were thinking of ways to get students thinking about not being so wasteful and throwing out loads of stuff when they leave student halls. So they came up with a really creative campaigns poster and approach, and kind of promoted that to the student movement at Bangor, and create mechanisms for those students to be able to recycle all of their waste at the end of term. And this campaign poster was so successful that it was later taken on by their local government and used in a similar campaign across the county, which was really cool to see. Down at the bottom there, you've got Seth, who've been working on getting an ethical bank on the doorstep. So student finance can be a particularly difficult area, and particularly for international students. So they identified this as a problem, working through us with Green Impact Excellence to try and create an ethical credit union. So not only providing needed student finance, but making sure that that's gained from an ethical background, which has been a really cool project to see happening within the student movement, and quite inspirational, I think. Up the top, you've got No Car Superstar. This was Northumbria Students' Union, who actually won a special award from NUS for doing this campaign, where they were trying to get people to change their behaviour around how they travel into university. And they came up with a kind of superheroes angle called No Car Superstar. So you were able to sign up online and choose your own alias, which is going to be your kind of character for changing the way you get into work. And so around this whole week of action on this, they had banner drops, had people at the train station giving out sweets and things to people who were not coming in by car. So they kind of took a really creative and just fun approach to an issue that can otherwise kind of be a little bit difficult to engage people on. The slide, you can see a big red bubble, which looks like a really cryptic picture. This came from Leeds University, where they were trying to engage people around energy saving. Was for a week at the beginning of term, they put a huge number up on the hill in a kind of visible place on campus, and got people kind of virally talking about, what is this number referring to, and created a lot of hype around it. And once a week had passed and people were really kind of intrigued about what this was all about, they published that was the number of people who were active or who were using the campus every day, making the point, every single individual really does add up. If each one of those people is using a computer and resources on campus, and then it's going to make a really big impact in terms of the university's sustainability. On the back of that, they then launched a number of different simple actions that people going to the university could do, such as turning off computers, and highlighted this with these big red bubbles with the written words outside various parts of the campus. So, for example, one of these big red bubbles was outside the library, getting people to think about turning off their computer and not just leaving it on, and really did have a huge impact. Right of there, we've got the Post-Crash Economic Society, who've been thinking about the curriculum side of things. So they're economic students, and they felt that the kind of curriculum that they were being taught at Manchester just didn't cut the mustard. It wasn't really thinking or aware of how sustainability fitted into their economics work. They decided to start campaigning for this and asking their lecturers to provide them with a more holistic education on how sustainability fits into economic principles. And when they were met with challenges and barriers, they decided, right, well, if the university isn't going to provide for us right now, we're going to create our own lecture program. We're going to invite in our own lecturers to come and run seminars for them. And that's been really transformational and interesting to see how University of Manchester reacts to that in putting forward their syllabuses in the coming years. So below that, we've got the Cheltenham Chili Company. So thinking about social enterprise angle of sustainability, they decided food growing was going to be the best way to get their students engaged in sustainability and involved in a way that would allow them to acquire practical skills. So in the future, they'd be able to set up their own social enterprise, but one that is kind of with ethics and sustainability principles really embedded into the heart of it. So they bought a polytunnel and they started growing loads of chilies. They had students involved in creating the really cool branding that they've got, in planning the project, and just every single aspect to create this wonderful chili chocolate jam that they've been giving out to people. And they're also looking at cider and all sorts of different kinds of production. So making that link between sustainability and photo down in the bottom corner is from Glasgow University Students' Union, who have been successful in encouraging their university to divest funds from the fossil fuel industry. This is huge news for the divestment campaign, which is really growing within the student movement at the moment, and it's something that we're really hoping to see build over the next few years. As if the finance isn't there to prop up the fossil fuel industry, they can't take such a bigger place in society. A huge number of different campaign angles and things that you might want to draw inspiration from. But I would say is make sure when you're thinking about these things and choosing which angle, because there are so many, think about the kind of students that you have and what's going to be the best thing for getting them engaged. Some tips from the sorts of things that we think about in getting people in planning out our sustainability projects. So number one, you've got people are very swayed by social norms. You can create a campaign or a project that is visible on campus, and you can show a number of people get involved in it and taking on a certain behaviour. That's when you're going to get more people engaging. You'll get certain people who will be your kind of your first followers, who will come and they will engage regardless really of what the activity is. But once you've got that kind of mass movement, that's when the rest of the student population gets on board with it and starts taking on notice of what you're saying. So thinking about that within your planning of your project can be quite useful. I know the first people to focus on are those owners, and then think about how you can create a kind of mass movement for something. Martin Luther King, again, really inspirational for us in the student movement. And what we've taken from his message, like if you think about his I Have a Dream speech, the thing he's painting is a kind of picture of a positive world. He's not focusing on the negative side of things. It's that positive world. So think about engaging students on sustainability through talking about a positive future. A good example being, the jobs crisis that people feel and the difficulties of students getting jobs in the future. We're talking about the green agenda as being able to provide jobs for people. That kind of positive messaging can be really positive. The picture behind Martin Luther King is the Futera report on the sizzle, and if you are interested in looking into how to communicate sustainability, I'd highly recommend having a look at that, as it gives you some really good examples of how to do that to put a positive message about sustainability. If you can kind of find those first key few people who are involved in sustainability and really invest in them, that's how you're going to get a spiraling effect. So more and more people engage with this agenda. Question again. So, who earlier this year urged their stockholders to support the company's new sustainability initiatives or to get out of the stock? Was it Tim Cook, the new head of Apple, Bill of Microsoft, or was it Lee Kun-hee of Samsung? I reckon it was who have been very, very pro on sustainability and trying to put that into their company's long-term So we've got quite a few people: Bill Gates, Lee Kun-hee, one person going for Tim Cook. So I can reveal that it was actually Tim Cook. Apple have the best record on sustainability and social justice, and have had a lot of negative press. But although they're not perfect, it's really interesting to see how the time changing and the ways in which sustainability is being slowly integrated into the action plans of all sorts of different companies, which a few years ago just wouldn't have been the case. So it kind of shows how now is the time to be doing sustainability projects, that changing the tide where more and more people are engaging. So now is kind of the time to start focusing on these various different things. And just to kind of bring it into how you can influence NUS's policy on the sustainability side of things. Nationally, you can feed into the Society and Citizenship Zone conferences or direction and oversight boards. We really want more and more students to engage with these processes, so that NUS is able to create sustainability programs around new issues that are coming up, that are happening on your campus, and create bigger programs just like the ones that Joe outlined at the beginning. And you could put forward a motion at NUS conference focusing on make it one of our direct policies for the coming year. You could utilise your president and student governors who sit on institutional boards, get them to ask the questions that need to be answered. So clearly getting them to ask about education for sustainable development. How is the university going to, university or college, rise to the challenge of integrating sustainability into the core purpose of the organisation and into the curriculum of those students? Something like that could be really, really great. So other examples, you could ask them to train up your course reps to challenge what is in the curriculum. You could ask them about their energy strategy or even what they invest in. So take on some of the learn from the investment movement and start getting your students asking questions of the university about that. Loads of different ideas of things that you could do on sustainability on your campus. Happy to sort of support you in any of these things as well. So if you are planning something, please do get in touch. But for now, I'm going to hand back over to Joe to take you through some of our future plans on sustainability and where our work is going to go in the coming years.
Cool, thanks, Laura. This is the final sort of little section, and we just wanted to wrap up by letting you know where we're at moving forward, really. Just to quote our kind of like departmental hero, Sir Jonathan Porritt, who's just a really well-acclaimed and articulate environmentalist, and actually spoke at our Green Hat Students' Unions Awards a couple of years ago. To him saying that it's about preparing students for the world of work, not just preparing students for the work of the world, not just the world of work. And really taking from that everything that we do within NUS across the whole movement is about preparing our students to be able to tackle a positive future, to be able to take on new initiatives, to be able to drive change, and be able to really make our world as a place as possible, not just chucking students out who have a degree who can therefore perform in the workplace as is. And I feel like that really sort of encapsulates what we're trying to achieve through our work at NUS. So just because of that, we'll just come to our final quiz question. What proportion of actual leadership positions do graduates take up? So again, get your arrows ready. So 40%, 60% or 80%? What proportion of leadership positions do graduates take up? So a pretty positive outlook from you guys in terms of the 60 and to 80%. The answer is the 8%. And then wanted to show this from a sustainability perspective, the real positive impact that we have by shaping our students' knowledge, understanding, skills, confidence, and abilities to take up leadership positions with a really positive stance on sustainability. Such a massive opportunity to create widespread social change through our interaction with students, both within the Students' Union, across campus, in the wider community. So we're sort of taking that on board as one of our sort of key mantras, I guess, moving forward with our programmes. Political taste. If you've had any involvement with the E&E department over the last couple of years, you'll probably be aware that we've really grown, really diversified the programmes that we run, and that comes from the feedback that you guys have been giving us through the processes that Laura mentioned previously. But looking forward, therefore, it's probably hard to just encapsulate exactly what we're going to be doing, but some of our key things that we are doing moving forward really focus on sustainability, particularly within the curriculum. So the first here, the Sustainable Future Tree that I've got there, is actually just to show you that we're missing at the moment a programme called the Responsible Futures, and it is all about sort of taking the really simple idea, the sort of almost green impact and alcohol impact model of setting a list of actions that we want to see happening and therefore accrediting what organisations have managed to achieve. But we're broadening that out, and it's got to be a whole institution and union collaboration approach. So the union and the university or college have tackled this through a steering group, and it's all about embedding sustainability within the curriculum. So some of it is about scoping what already exists, what courses are doing really well, where is their potential, but also looking at how they embed that within the ethos of the organisation. So it's a really holistic approach, and we're really, really excited about it. As I say, we're just piloting it this year, but it has massive potential, and it's going to be accrediting youth and universities for 3 years. So we're not asking for that sort of consistent, ongoing, by little approach. It's kind of, let's start the process, let's think big, and then over the next 3 years, let's really put those things into place. So that's really exciting. I put in keep calm and finish your dissertation. We've been working on a programme called Dissertations for Good, and a really simple idea, and it's all about linking up students who want to do a dissertation on something with a social, environmental, CSR focus, and linking them up with a key organisation, a charity, a business, organisation, and getting them to do their dissertation for them. So a really great opportunity for increasing students' employability, to understand how research can be applicable in the wider world, but also obviously giving a chance for an organisation to really embed itself in sustainability. And finally, what I'm really aware of is that a lot of our programmes, NUS facilitated programmes, engage a massive number of students. Through Green Impact, we engage at least 1,000 students per year as auditors or project assistants. Engage tens of thousands of students through student switch-off campaigns, and yet a lot of those aren't involved in their students' union, or don't know how to, or don't quite know whether they're ready to take the step and be part of a People and Planet campaign group, or really push forward a specific campaign. So one of our big aims this year is to do as much as we can through our existing programmes and through supporting you guys to reach those students and that really build their capacity to be more politically active. One thing that is we're setting up a student summit this year. It's a project that has been run in America and works really, really well, and that we've stolen their idea. And in March, we'll be holding a day conference for students, so students who volunteer on our projects or any sustainability action, officers like yourselves, staff, but really kind of having that really student focus. To really get everybody together to look at some of the up-and-coming issues and get people really thinking about how they can build the capacity of their own students and themselves to kind of really drive forward change. So those are some of the areas that we're looking at, as well as much more involved internationally in setting up a students Organising for Sustainability network of student campaign groups, which is going to be really exciting. And a lot of our programmes are also developing and flourishing in Europe and in the States. So watch this space. But if you've got any other ideas or things that you think we should be doing, then obviously go through the channels that we explained earlier, or just give one of us a call. Always excited to hear your suggestions. 23rd of March at Leeds Students' Union is the Student Summit. To kind of finally recap, hopefully what we've had today is why NUS works on sustainability, and it really coming from the demand from students, but also our legacy and our history as an organisation in campaigns and social justice. Given an overview of some of our current projects, we've had a good amount of time for you to really think about the kind of actions that you can do to drive forward sustainability and draw on experience from others that start thinking around the ways that you can engage your students by the type of students they are and the type of issues that are going to be really personal to them. And a brief look at the future plans for NUS's sustainability work. I realise we are bang on one, which is quite incredible, but if you've got any questions, either jot them down in the chat bar, write them up on the screen, or if you haven't got too much background noise, feel free to unmute yourself and ask some questions. And sending around a recording of the webinar and the slides to the E&E mailing list. So not on that mailing list, pop down your name and email in the chat bar, or we'll give you Laura's email address afterwards, and that'll show you how to get involved in that. So, any questions? Issues from anybody? Good. Hopefully that means we've covered a lot of what you wanted to hear. Thanks, Abby. We'll pop you on the list. Yeah, we'll send this around to you, and obviously do get in touch. Laura, who did most of the talking today, runs Green Impact Student Union. So do get in touch with her if you're part of that, if you've got any questions, or if you want to be part of it and find out more. And the JISC mail is there, so you can sign up directly through emailing there and asking to be involved. And you'll receive all of our NUS E&E out to you. So ever so much for coming. You've been really participatory, which has been great, and we look forward to hopefully working with you and developing the sector further moving forward.